Hi there. I wanted to talk today about the physical effects that an eating disorder has on your body. A lot of times when we discuss eating disorders, and I do this myself, I talk a lot about how I felt when I was in it or how I looked, and really and truly I kind of wanted to demystify them by actually discussing what is going on in your body at a biological level when you engage in these behaviors. I think that this can serve to demystify a lot of what we think about eating disorders. They're not romantic, they're not something that's just a fun habit that somebody has. They're not worth it. They are life-threatening diseases, and these things that are affected by our eating habits and behaviors are really serious and should not be ignored. And it's not even something where these happen to you when you've been engaging in behaviors for years. I was in an eating disorder for about 2 to 3 years, and I saw the effects of this on my body within 3 months of the first time I did it. I am still feeling effects in my body today, even though I'm in full recovery, and it's because of the damage that I did to my body over those years. So I wanted to make this video for anybody that is struggling right now, anybody that is considering seeking help, and anybody who has a friend with an eating disorder, because we need to know the severity of what somebody is engaging in. This is not casual. These are not memes that people make. These are not... The more that we see what actually happens when somebody has an eating disorder, the more vigilant we are about guarding each other and guarding the community. And the reason that so many people are outspoken, like Jamila Jamil, about diet teas and things like that is because at a molecular level, they mess up your body. So this is just to help you to, I guess, be on fire to kind of come against diet culture in general. And I'm going to be reading off of a list, and before I even begin, all of this information can be found online on multiple sources. I personally use the National Eating Disorder Association's website. They have a whole tab about what this does to your body. I'm going to go through each part of your body that is affected, and I'm sure I'm going to miss some, and I'm sure that all of my facts I'm gonna butcher in some way, but again, I will link below what you can find to kind of back up all of these facts. So basically, we're gonna start out with what happens to your heart. Your heart is a muscle. The moment that you begin restricting your food intake, your body goes into survival mode and begins to quite literally eat itself. This means that your body goes for your muscles first. So actually, well, physically, it goes for your butt and your boobs first. So you lose some assets there. But regardless from that, your body begins to eat itself. It begins to eat its muscles. And do you know what a muscle is? A muscle is your heart at the end of the day. And your heart, when it is interfered, when it does not have the right amount of energy, when it has kind of imbalances in electrolytes and different, I guess, chemicals that your body loses when you binge, purge, or restrict, it starts to go a little wonky. Your heart is a muscle. As your body starts to eat itself, your pulse will drop as well as your blood pressure, and this can in and of itself lead to heart failure. I have friends in recovery who spoke about when they were heavily restricting how they literally slept with their door open at night because they literally didn't know if that would be the night they had a heart attack and died. And they just knew that. Like, a part of them knew, but was still stuck in this eating disorder and couldn't get out. These are young people. These are not old people. These are not people that had an eating disorder for 30 years. These are people that were in the middle of it after about 6 months, and they were having chest pains that were severe and painful. I myself, one of the moments that led me to go into treatment was when I was purging one time, and I felt a sharp, painful twinge in my heart. It was terrifying. I literally stopped throwing up for a second, stood up, and I was like, am I dying right now? And that's kind of one of the reasons that I knew I needed to get help further on. Through purging by both vomiting and laxatives, because laxatives are considered purging, you mess up the electrolytes in your body. A lot of times when people think electrolytes, they think of Gatorade, but electrolytes are also crucial for your heart function. So heart palpitations become common, muscle spasms become very common, and muscle cramps. If you've ever had a Charlie horse, imagine that, but way more common, and also happening just because you're not eating enough. I remember certain times I would be at the gym when I had an unhealthy addiction to working out, and I was under the impression that, oh, I just got all these Charlie horses or muscle cramps because I was working so hard. I got them because my body didn't have the nutrients it needed to bounce back from working out. And that in and of itself was messed up, but I didn't even realize that was the symptom of an eating disorder at the time. Drinking an excess amount of water as well, which is another eating disorder behavior, causes imbalances in this as well. So you don't even have to be binging or purging or necessarily restricting. Drinking too much water can really mess up your body as well. So even if you think a behavior is harmless or you think a behavior is just small, surely having so much water can't be bad for you. it does have an effect on your body. Your body knows what you're doing, and your body is going to try and fix whatever you're doing in whatever way it can. It's designed to survive. And when you immediately start fighting it, your body's going to fight back. Another thing was decrease in certain chemicals in your body, like through, restricting or binging or purging. Decreases in those certain chemicals causes your metabolism to slow down. And that literally means that in the long term, if you continue with these behaviors, you will actually gain weight over time. So think about that for a second. In your pursuit to trick your body into losing more and more weight, you are training your body to hold on to everything you give it with all of its might. That's one of the reasons that honestly I had started purging, because I had read about that, and when I finally snapped in my head and went from restriction heavily to purging, to binging, I learned about the fact that my metabolism had slowed down, and I wanted to beat that by throwing up, and that only led to more electrolyte imbalances, and still my metabolism was slower. Next is the stomach. The stomach is feels like an obvious thing that would be messed up by your eating disorder, but the extent of which was still something I didn't understand. Binging, which is eating an excess amount of food in a certain amount of time, can quite literally rupture your stomach. Your stomach can explode, which is terrifying and life-threatening. And you don't know which time you binge is going to be the last one that's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Your digestion takes a major hit when you begin restricting, when you begin using laxatives regularly, and when you begin purging. This is because you are giving your body, your body has always known what to do with food, and suddenly you are tricking it and taking away what it's always done. And also it's like there's an assembly line in your body, and you're suddenly taking out certain pieces of machinery that are meant to keep it moving. Your digestion immediately takes a hit, and this looks like bloating and stomach pain. A lot of times in eating disorders, even before refeeding is when you begin to kind of heal medically and physically from your eating disorder. It happens when you go into treatment or when you step into recovery fully. You will bloat because your body is holding on to water and liquid and everything, trying to kind of hold on to life forces to keep it alive. That's not a great feeling, because when all you fear in life the most is gaining weight and your body begins to bloat, it's only going to cause you to be more anxious. Nausea and vomiting. A big part of this, which is something that still affects me today, is your body becomes used to throwing up. If you throw up enough, your body becomes used to it, and it thinks, okay, you just gave me food, so you want me to throw it up, right? I struggle to this day with acid reflux because of all of the throwing up and vomiting and purging and laxatives that I did in the past. To this day, I will eat certain meals, and I did not overeat. I ate a perfectly normal amount of food, and my body is trying to make me throw up. This is not my body's fault. It's not my body being bad. It's my body being good in its own eyes by doing what it thinks I want it to do. So even after I have stopped, I've been clean for a couple of months now of purging or anything like that. It's still something that is there every day, and it's something that sticks with me every day. And a lot of other people who have recovered from bulimia say the same thing, so I just want to say that real fast. Another thing that gets really messed up are your hunger cues. So basically, I mentioned this in a couple of videos ago, but hunger cues are basically your brain and your stomach communicating, telling you when you are full, when you are hungry, and when you are satisfied. And when you have an eating disorder, you really mess up what goes on between your brain and your stomach, because suddenly your stomach becomes so used to being hungry that it can shrink. And when that happens, your stomach no longer knows how to gauge what it should and shouldn't eat. So a lot of times when I first began to recover in the treatment center I was in, we had to check in before meals and say how hungry we were. And when I first started in treatment, I would be like, oh, I'm starving, but then I could only eat a couple bites, and I was like, what's going on? Like, I shouldn't be full right now, but I am. Or certain times I could keep eating, and I couldn't tell when I was full until it was way too late. These hunger cues slowly do come back in recovery. I now am able to identify when I am struggling and when I'm not, and it still fluctuates every once in a while and gets hard, but it does get easier as you begin to recover. Constipation becomes a very common thing in eating disorders, because when you are not giving your body enough nutrients and you're not giving it the right kind of nutrients that it can break down, there becomes blockages. Another thing is with laxative use, which is very common in eating disorders, and also laxatives are thinly veiled as tummy teas and all those kinds of things online. Those are laxatives. And what it basically does is it saps all of the liquid out of your body and kind of just makes you get rid of it in that way. However, your body can become dependent on them, meaning that the nerve endings in your bowels literally become incapable of knowing when to go to the restroom because they have been conditioned to need this specific thing. A lot of people have to wean off of laxatives. A lot of people, when they start recovery, are constipated for days at a time because their bodies literally don't know what to do with nutrients. Purging also affects the esophagus. Obviously, if you are sticking your fingers all the way down your throat, a lot of times you'll have scarring on the back of it. I remember a doctor looking down my throat and saying, yes, there is evidence that you have been purging because I can see scratches on the back of your throat. I one time had blood, a couple of times I had blood come out in my vomit because I was literally scratching my esophagus. But a really big thing that can happen is your esophagus can, just like your stomach, literally explode. It doesn't have to be because you've been doing it forever. It can literally just happen. It's life-threatening, it's terrifying, and people die from that. Self-induced vomiting also causes your salivatory glands to swell because they're basically it's water retention in your body, basically. So your body's like, okay, we need to save all this up because we know that sooner or later she's gonna throw up again. They're gonna lose that liquid that we've been saving up. So it saves up liquid, and a lot of times people with bulimia, I don't want to say there's like a look to it, but a lot of people with bulimia do have swollen cheeks because of this. They have swollen cheeks or swollen glands down here. I myself, when I look at pictures of myself when I was in my eating disorder, had very swollen cheeks. My face was just a lot rounder. I already have a round face, but it was much rounder and fuller in my cheeks. And I remember when I got out of treatment, my therapist being like, you do, like, I can see it in your face that something's different. It doesn't mean I gained or lost weight. It just means my body was holding water differently. The brain. This is a really interesting one because the brain is a muscle as well, and when you begin to deplete it, it starts to obviously not function at its full capacity, and because of this, the brain's response, the brain's kind of weapon to get you to start eating again is to make you obsess over food. So when somebody has an eating disorder, all of their thoughts begin to become, what am I going to eat next? What am I not going to eat next? How am I going to exercise it away? All that kind of stuff, because your brain is literally begging for more food. That's insane in and of itself, because in your attempt to escape food and escape gaining weight and all these kinds of things, you are actually training your brain to freak out more about food. So the longer that you diet, or the longer that you obsess over little tiny things, the more that you restrict and take away from your body, the more your body's literally going to mentally fight you on that. So a war is begun in your head. This was something for me. Literally the first thought I thought in the morning was, what am I going to eat for breakfast? And the last thing I thought about at night, I would go through Pinterest boards of desserts and dinners and meals that I knew I would never eat, but it was all I could think about. It was the only thing that was interesting to me at the time. I had so many passions and so many things that I loved, but they all came in second place to food, which is just so sad to me now. When our hearts cannot pump blood properly because of a loss in muscle, they can't pump up to our brains fast enough. So in eating disorders, it's very common for people to constantly be dizzy. They'll be dizzy when they stand up. Fainting is very common. A lot of times that's kind of one of the breaking points for a lot of people, because if you faint in front of your family, they're going to be pretty curious as to why. For me, I just thought it was one of my quirks or something like that. That's why when I stood up, I was really dizzy. No, when I stood up, I was really dizzy because I wasn't eating enough. That's why. It's not some cute quirk or some cute like anemic thing. No, it's just that. You can actually develop anemia because of an eating disorder, because obviously a lot of people cut out meat and things like that, and your body needs that. I already mentioned this, but electrolyte imbalances can cause muscle cramps, but they can also literally cause seizures. So that's another really scary thing that a lot of people don't realize, but it's just kind of how it is. Another thing is your hands, your feet, and like different extremities on your body will experience tingling sensations. This is because when your body is missing lipids, which is kind of like a protective layer around the brain, it can cause certain like extremities to suffer and go numb in a way. Again, I experienced this a lot, and I thought it was just one of my quirks. My arms would always fall asleep, or my feet would always fall asleep, and I had to literally like smack them on the ground to feel something again. It's not cute. It's literally just my body eating itself. That's not cute. Fat and cholesterol also are the reasons that we are able to have hormones in our bodies. So when you start restricting from fats and cholesterol in general at a high level, your hormones become imbalanced. This can lead to thyroid problems. Your thyroid becomes inactive. I personally lost my period and my thyroid was just whacked up because because your thyroid also contributes to your metabolism. And basically for women, I don't know as much for men, but for women, the thyroid is honestly one of the biggest troublemakers in the body. If your thyroid is off balance, things are going to look a little wonky. You have loss of menstruation. Lower sex hormones can actually lead to bone density loss, so you are at a higher risk of developing osteoporosis at a young age when you continue to live with eating disorder behaviors. That's the same with like heart failure and everything though. These things are not things that a young body should be going through, but you are literally aging your body when you do these things. So again, my camera died for a second, but I'm back. But your body temperature is unable to be regulated when you are not giving it the food and the nutrients it needs to produce the energy it also needs to maintain your body temperature. That's why a lot of people are like, oh, I'm just like quirky, I'm just cold all the time. No, it's not a quirk. It's something's wrong in your body, and we need to stop being like, oh, she's just fun. Like, no. And sometimes some people are just cold. I'm not saying anybody who's cold all the time has an eating disorder. That's not it. Another thing, these are just kind of other things that don't really fall under one specific category of the body. Your skin, hair, nails all become dry and brittle. When you are not, your body basically, when you are not giving it everything it needs, will kind of be like, okay, what's the least important thing here to survival? We'll take from there. So your fingernails, your skin, and your hair. A lot of people experience hair thinning, hair falling out, and that's a very real thing as well. On the topic of hair, because of the body temperature regulation problems, when somebody becomes malnourished, their body will start to grow hair literally everywhere. It's like clear hair, and it's called lanugo. It basically is the body's attempt at insulating itself further, and this is something that happens more on the extreme end of anorexia, but still it's just kind of a strange thing that your body does to survive, but it's also kind of cool that your body does that to survive as well. Another thing is you have a lowered ability to fight diseases. Your immune system needs energy and needs nutrients to be able to have, it's like taking all the weapons from their arsenal if you like get sick and you are restricting. When I was in treatment, when I used to get cuts or something like that, the nurse would be very diligent about cleaning it and everything like that, because she was like, you are like triple prone to infection because your body has not been given the nutrients it needs. That's very serious and also something to consider, especially when we are in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. If you are not eating, you are immunocompromised. So while we stress about people gaining weight in all of this, let's just think about the fact that when you lose weight from restricting or trying to control that quarantine 15, which is just vile and annoying, you are literally making yourself more susceptible to the virus. Just a side thought. I say all of this and stutter through all of it and speak very fast and wave my arms around, all because of this. Eating disorders are not cute. They're not a trend. They're not something on TikTok that's going to get likes. They're not behaviors that people get that are just cute little quirks. They're not harmless. They are killing you. An eating disorder is a slow suicide. Sooner or later, it will kill you. That's just the truth. When we uphold a diet culture and the mentality that being smaller is better, we are promoting these lifestyles for people that are not maintainable, that we were not designed to live like. And I say all of this with love in my heart to people that are still struggling with dieting and still struggling with their body image, but the bottom line is body acceptance comes way later. First, we have to get rid of the dialogue around weight. Get rid of the idea that to be better, you have to be smaller, or that you will be happier when you reach this one goal. That's not true. You find happiness, you find joy other places. Your weight and your body doesn't have to be the thing that you beat up in pursuit of that. Okay. That's all there is to it. Eating disorders will mess you up. I'm proof. A lot of other people are proof. I have proof. I have friends that are proof. That's the bottom line of it. I would love people to comment the ways that eating disorders messed with their bodies and messed with their lives below, because I want people to realize it's not romantic, it's not cute, and it's not worth it. Get off of Tumblr, get off of Pinterest, get off of TikTok, unfollow those accounts that make you think you need to lose weight, completely shun the people that promote diet culture and promote weight loss products, be it a gummy, a vitamin, a tea, I don't care what it is. It's wrong and it's killing people. Oh, also the pancreas, that's another thing that gets really messed up from laxatives and everything like that. I have pancreas damage. I'm 22 years old and I have problems with my pancreas. That's really weird. That's not right. But you know what? I drank the teas. I took the pills and it wasn't worth it. I'm not an angry person, I promise. That was this week's video. Please comment. I'd love to hear your other experiences so that we can help other people realize that eating disorders aren't cute, they're not fun, and nobody should want one. Thank you very much, and I'll see you later.